Hey there, true crime friends. You know what time it is. It is time for lunchtime true crime. But first, you know what you have to do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, become a member if you feel so moved. We're having fun over there, having just like a little private kiki over in the back room. But look, today we're going to do something different than what we normally do. Normally, I bring you a brand new true crime case that you don't know anything about or you know very little about, and I break it down for you in the way that I do. But today, I have to do something different, and that is that we are going to take a deeper look at a case that I have actually already covered because new information has come out and I have thoughts, and you know I am here to share my thoughts with you. So look, this is the case of the state of Georgia versus Quaneesha Johnson. Now, this case was adjudicated last week. Ms. Johnson was convicted, and then she was sentenced yesterday, and I was like, oh, a lot of unexpected things happened in this sentencing. But first, let me give you a little bit of background. Quaneesha Johnson is this teeny little woman. She's like 5'1", 5'2", something like that. She got like tattoos. She's real skinny and cute she has long hair, very beautiful girl, right? She's a little bit hood, which nothing wrong with that, but facts is facts. So she's 29 years old. She has 3 or 4 kids, couple different babies, daddies. Okay, whatever that happens, fine. So she's dating, but listen, has her life together. Yes, she has a couple of kids. No, she is not married. She's a little bit of a party girl, but she's taking care of her children to the best of her ability. She has terrible taste in men. Terrible taste in men. So she was dating this guy whose name was, I forget his government name, child, but his street name was Dolo, and that is what we will call him for the duration of this video. Also, her children didn't seem to know his government name. They also called him Dolo. Okay, so Ms. Quaneesha is dating this dude, and they break up and they get back together, and then he goes to jail. Okay, I guess that happens. Fine, but she rents herself a beautiful house, has her children in a nice neighborhood. She's getting them to school. She's doing all the things that she needs to do for herself. And then she finds out Dolo's getting out of prison and he doesn't have a place to go. And she's like, okay, you can move in with me. So he moves in with her. Fine. They're getting along well enough to get pregnant. Okay, I guess you only have to get along once for that to happen, but they were getting along well enough. Only during some of the times they weren't getting along, he would beat her. Not just like, girl, I'm mad and I'm going to say mean things to you, like physically, bodily beat her, leave bruises on her body that she took pictures and had evidence of, and he beat her children. I'm not talking about a spanking. I'm talking about bruises and whatever that she also took pictures of, yet he continued to live there. Make it make sense, people. That does not make sense to me. So she has her baby, fathered by Mr. Dolo, and her baby's about 2 months old. Was she still on maternity leave? Unclear. But one of her girlfriends calls her one night and it's like, hey, Q, let's go out to this club to celebrate my birthday. And she's like, it is a regular school night, and it's 11 o'clock at night. Sure, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to leave this child abuser home alone with my 3 daughters, and I'm going to meet you out at the club. Okay, poor judgment, but wait, it gets worse. So she goes out to the club and she stays out. She's partying. She's having a good time, has a few drinks, fine. And then she calls him and she's like, hey, Dolo, listen, it's after midnight and my girlfriend got into a physical altercation with another woman at the club. Girl, who are your friends? Y'all grown? You're like 28, 29 years old and you're getting in physical fights at a nightclub in the middle of the night on a school night while the child abuser is home with your kids? Okay. So she's like, my friend got into a physical altercation here at the club, but don't worry about it. We're going to go to this other club. Okay. So they go to the second club, only her phone dies and then he can't reach her. And he's panicking because his girl is missing and there was a fight and he's worried and he's concerned. Okay, this makes perfect sense to me. So he calls her 2 aunties who were in Philadelphia. And now keep in mind, these folks are in Atlanta. He calls the 2 aunties up in Philly and is like, yo, have you heard from Q? I don't know where she's at. She said she was in somebody was in a fight and now she's missing and it's been hours. And so the aunties are worried and they're upset and they're calling and they're texting and they can't reach him and all this foolishness. So finally, Quaneesha is like, you know what? It is 4 a.m. and I have young children at home with a child abuser. I should probably go home. So she goes home and she leaves the club. And as soon as she gets in the car, she plugs in her cell phone to give it some power because it has gone dead. And as soon as that phone gets power, it's like bleep, 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 blowing up with all the messages. So first she calls her aunties and is like, hey, no, my phone just died. I'm totally fine. I'm driving home now. It was quite a long drive. And so they were like, okay, Dolo was really worried about you back at the house. Let's just patch him in. So they patch Mr. Dolo into the call and he starts going off, all the way off, talking about how he's going to beat her. Sir, that's, I understand that you were concerned. That's probably not where you want to go with this conversation. But he is talking reckless and crazy. And the two aunties, one of the aunties was like, oh, I need to drop off this call so I could text him privately and cuss him out. So she texts him privately and her text says, what you're not going to do is put your hands on my niece again. Okay, so it's common knowledge that he just beats her when he feels like it. Okay, he's a horrible human being. So this auntie who was kind of rough, you know the TTs are undefeated. You cannot mess with a TT. That TT was this close to just jumping in her car and driving on down there and handling this boy. But okay, fine. So the TT who dropped off the phone gets back on the call and stays on the phone with Q until she gets to her house and says, listen, he's already talking about he got you on site and he's there in the house with your kids. You need to call the police. So she's like, that is an excellent idea. Let me call y'all later. So she hangs up from the aunties and she calls 911 and says, listen, my boyfriend's threatening to beat me up. And I know he's beat me up before and he beat up his previous baby's mom. How is he even dateable? He beating up previous baby's mamas and he's your current boyfriend? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. So she calls the cops and she's like, listen, I'm on my way home. He says he's going to beat me within an inch of my life. Can you please meet me there? And they yet say, yes, of course, ma'am, we can. Keep in mind, she's 5'2", he's 6'3". Okay, he's home with your kids and he beating people. Okay, fine. So the cops get there before she does, and they're like, well, we're not just going to stand around and wait for you to show up. We just not like a chauffeur service or whatever. So they're like, listen, we have other calls. Call us when you get closer to the house. And she says, okay. She gets closer to the house. She calls the police again, and they're like, yeah, we're still out on other calls. We can't come, but just wait. Don't go in the house yet. Now, Mr. Dolo comes outside because he sees her parked in the parking lot, and he's mad. So she's like, wait, let me drive around and find another police officer. Now the sun is starting to come up because she's been out all night and she's exhausted. Plus, she got a 2-month-old, so you know she's not sleeping through the night, right? She finds a police officer in the neighborhood and says, hey, officer, can you come to my house with me? Because my boyfriend said he's going to beat me up. Okay, this is safety conscious and smart. Probably the first smart move she's made all night. So this cop shows up at the house and is like, okay, sir, you're not allowed to beat her. He comes outside with the 2-month-old baby in his arms and baby has no clothes on. He's freezing cold. They fighting over, give me the baby. No, I got the baby. Let me change my baby, blah, 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 back and forth. And the police officer says to them, listen, everybody needs to calm down. Everybody needs to go back in the house and just make sure you keep yourselves under control. And so she's like, okay, but he still say he's going to beat me up. But he has not laid hands on her in this particular altercation. Part of the problem that she's having too, though, is during the course of her first 911 call, the cops were trying to find reason to go into the house to stop the situation. And they said, is he harming the children? And she said, no, I'm not worried about my children. I'm only worried about myself. Now, she knows in retrospect that was a mistake. She should have said, I'm nervous, the kids are in danger, whatever, because the police had no probable cause to go into the house. So the cops talk to both of them and say, everybody calm down, take a cooling off break. And she says, if I shoot him in self-defense, what am I supposed to do? This is before she shot him in self-defense. And the cop said, well, you better make sure you know the law and be able to justify shooting him in self-defense. And she's like, I just want to go get my kids, but I might have to shoot him in self-defense. And the cops were like, okay, ma'am, we don't advise that. Have a good night. So he goes in the house. She goes in the house and she's like, look, the cops are not paying attention to me. So she activates the panic button on her alarm. The cops show up again. They have another conversation and then the cops leave. And so she's like, the cops are not doing what I want them to do. Honestly, to this day, I'm not entirely certain what the cops are supposed to do in a situation where this man, he is a felon. He is a felon making threats. And I don't know if that's a violation of his parole or not. So she has 2 phones, one for business and one for work. And one for business and one for personal. She gives her 2 phones to her 2 young daughters and tells each of them, call 911. Then she goes to her car and she gets her gun, her own personal weapon, and she gets a crowbar. So she goes back in the house and she says she's going to get her 2-month-old baby. She said she was going to take her kids and leave. I don't know what the plan was. She goes into the house. They get into an argument. And so meanwhile, both of her daughters, her young daughters, I think they were aged 7 and 9, are on the 2 separate cell phones. And we hear the cell phone calls from the little girls. The little girls say, I'm in danger. My mommy said that this man hit her and y'all need to come. Meanwhile, in the background, you hear the 2 of them getting into an argument. Nobody has hit anybody yet. And so she hits him with the crowbar and you hear him say, ouch, or something like that. And then you hear on the 911 call, she shoots him. You hear the gunshot and he was like, baby, you shot me. And she's like, bye, bye, bye. I'm like, girl, you didn't seem that scared when you were screaming bye at the man after you shot him, but okay. So the little girls on 911 are like, oh, was that a gunshot? Okay, well, now we're going to send the police. The police come out. Miss Quaneesha stays upstairs doing I don't know what. And then Mr. Dolo stumbles down the stairs where he falls in the floor and dies. Okay, so the cops come, they take him away. And she's like, listen, this was clearly a case of self-defense. If you recall, I said I was going to self-defense myself when y'all was here before, but okay, whatever. So she gets arrested. It's considered child endangerment because she shot the man in front of her children. Okay, fine. So she is separated from her children. Her children get whisked off to Philadelphia. She gets her behind whisked off to jail while they investigate the situation. She gets out on bond, and then the grand jury looks at the whole situation and is like, yeah, she gonna get indicted for 1st-degree murder because she said, I'm gonna shoot him in self-defense. And then she on the 911 tape screaming bye. And it's like, okay, everything, honestly, none of these people seem like fine, upstanding citizens to me. Yes, everybody made mistakes, but this whole situation is messy, messy, messy. So she hires a private defense attorney, none other than Mr. Michael Sterling. We know Michael Sterling. Michael Sterling is that fine chocolate brother who shows up on court TV all the time. He is also Eva the Diva's husband. You know Eva from America's Next Top Model and Real Housewives of Atlanta? Yes, that Michael Sterling, who also looks exactly like Justin Bamberg. So Michael Sterling here's Miss Quaneesha's case, and it's like, this is clearly a case of self-defense. This man was a felon on parole. He beat up this woman. He beat up her children. He beat up his previous baby's mama. There's a 911 call from the previous baby's mama. And if we can get this previous 911 call in to show a pattern of behavior, then we're going to get this lady off. She's not going to be convicted at all. She's going to be able to get back together with her children and go on with her merry life. No problem. They cannot find the first baby's mom. In the absence of the first baby's mom, they cannot the judge says, nope, you can't play this previous 911 call, but you can put that first baby's mom on the witness stand and have her tell her story. Okay, only the first baby's mom has gone missing. Okay. Turns out the first baby's mom is in contact with Mr. Dolo's family, and Mr. Dolo's family is like, don't tell them cops nothing. Don't help that heifer. She shot our son. So the first baby's mom was like, okay, I'm going to hide out and dodge the police for the pendency of this case, and then we just going to see what happens. So the trial goes on. Mr. Michael Sterling rests. The state gets up and gives their rebuttal case. The case goes to the jury. While the case is at the jury, baby's mama number one pops back up and she's up here doing Instagram lives talking about that heifer killed him, blah, 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 blah. He used to beat me up too. Oh, she had a whole lot to say once the case had gone to the jury. Meanwhile, Michael Sterling, who also has Instagram, was like, wait, judge, we found the heifer and now we're trying to get her to come in, but she's saying no, she won't come in. And so the judge is like, right. Ain't nothing I can do about that. Let the jury deliberate. So the jury deliberates and they find her guilty, not of first-degree murder, but of manslaughter and endangering a child, etc., etc. The whole family is devastated, right? And so, wait, are you leaving?
Yeah.
Okay, come and give me a kiss first. Hang on, y'all. Okay, had to kiss my husband goodbye. He's going off to work. Okay, so look. So, they can't find the first baby's mom. Well, they find the first baby's mom. The trial goes on anyway without her testimony. Miss Quaneesha gets convicted and everybody is upset. And it's like, okay, let's see what she gets convicted of. His family, the gentleman's family, is like, okay, we got justice for our for our woman beating son. Fine. And the judge was like, okay, so I'm ready to sentence you right now. This was Friday. I'm ready to sentence you right now. You ready to go to jail? Because I'm ready to send you directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. And Mr. Michael Sterling was like, hang on. We're going to get some character witnesses over here. Can we have a little bit of time? The judge was like, it's Friday today. Okay, you have till Monday at 8 o'clock. Dogs. The judge was like, you have till Monday at 8 o'clock. And then I'm gonna sentence her behind, because I think I already know. I think I already wrote my little speech out. Everything is good to go. So Michael Sterling and his cute self was like, okay, we gonna pull it together before then. So Monday, yesterday, day before, whatever. I think today's, I don't know what day of the week it is. Holly, please stop. Monday rolls around. And I'm like, okay, let me hear these victim impact statements. Person after person gets up and says how wonderful Quaneesha Johnson is and how she's a good mother and she's just doing her best and whatever. Now, you know, she's up here looking pitiful and sad, dressed like a church mother with the pinstripe suit. All her tats are covered up. All her piercings are covered up. Nothing wrong with piercings and tats. But you want to look as wholesome as possible when you go to court. And she looking super wholesome. She looked like she an usher on the first Sunday. So then his family gets up, and Mr. Q's family, Mr. Dolo's family, their victim impact statements were quite enlightening. And this is what his mama said about him. This is not what I said about him. This is what his mama said about him. When this first happened, I felt sorry for Quaneesha because we really loved and cared about her. Okay. And she said, I felt terrible because, you know, my son was my son. But then I saw all the evidence and I heard the tapes where she's screaming by. What I heard this mama say was, yes, my son beat up women. That's how he was. And as long as she was taking beatings, I was cool with it. I didn't think it was wonderful, but like, well, sometimes my son liked to beat women. I guess that was his hobby. But when I heard her screaming, bye, that let me know she was real done with him and she probably killed him on purpose. Ma'am, I'm sure she did, because she was sick of him too. But what I'm trying to understand is how you got a man who's beating your kids, babysitting your kids. But okay, whatever. People make mistakes. So everybody has their say, and then the judge has her say. And then more surprises happen after that. Okay, so look, the judge is like, y'all done talking? Because I prepared my little statement. I have it all written out. And so the judge said, now, both the families are sitting here like, okay, what's she going to get? Because she could get like 30 years in prison, never see her kids till they grown-ups. And this girl is only 20-something years old, 29 years old. The judge is like, okay, this is how this sentence is going to work. Now, I have seen the mitigating evidence. I have seen the pictures where he has beat and battered your children. I have seen the pictures where he has beaten and battered you. I have heard tale of him beating and battering that first wife. Also, she didn't say this, but I know it was in there. I heard his mama say, yeah, he basically a woman beater, but please overlook that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a 20-year sentence. And I was like, what? And then she said, but this is how I'm going to break it out for you. The first 5 years, you have to be locked up in jail. Okay, what's happening to the other 15? The second 5 years, you have to be on home confinement. Oh, house arrest? I could just be in my house? That's the only kind. Listen, I don't want to go to jail at all. But if I'm going to be locked up, that's the kind of lockup I want. I just want to be right here in my house. So she's like, the second 5 years, you have to stay home, but you can go to work and you can go to church and you can go to school and you go to doctor's appointments and you can go see your baby be a tooth in the school play. Okay. And then for the last 10 years, you're just going to be on probation. Also, I'm going to give you first offender treatment. Do y'all know about first offender treatment? First offender treatment means you do your time, you follow the rules, you do what you're supposed to do for this first 10 years. And then at the end of that first 10 years, it gets wiped off your record. You are no longer a felon. She got one free murder? Oh, apparently you can get one free murder. Now, everybody, as far as I'm concerned, in this case was wrong. Should it have ended in murder? No. Was it going to end in murder anyway? Likely. The only question was who was going to get murdered. He was not going to get first offender treatment because he was already a felon. So it's sort of like a little bit of a public service homicide. She's lucky she shot him and didn't poison him like I would have did. Not saying that I poison people. I don't, because gossip, rumor, and innuendo does not condone poisoning to people. But if this was me, child, all I would have needed was a little bit. Well, she did need that free child care, so there was that. But honey, his morning tea would have been sweetened with antifreeze. But it's a little sweet. Don't worry about it. You in the South, this is sweet tea. Don't you worry about a thing. Oh, you're not feeling good? Why don't you go lay down and take some Pepto? I'm going to go to work and be back in 2-3 days, see how you doing. That would have been me. But look, if anybody in my house gets sick, they're going to be like, check that bitch for antifreeze. Anyway, so she gets first offender treatment, and his family is livid, upset, beside themselves. And I was like, okay, but then more surprises. Mr. Michael Starling stands up and is like, okay, Your Honor, what I heard him say was, thank you for this very light sentence and thank you for the first offender treatment. He said, what I would also like to do, we are going to appeal this case because that first baby's mama was hiding out. So we're definitely going to appeal this case, and because she was convicted of manslaughter, not murder one. So yes, she's still a felon, and yet it's a fading felony conviction, meaning she a felon right now, but it's just going to fade right off her record. And then by the time her kids are in middle school, she's not going to be a felon no more. Okay, cool. That means she can still get them good jobs and go to school and be around kids and whatever. Mr. Michael Starling was like, while we appeal this conviction, because of that first baby's mom, we would like her to remain free on bond. And the judge was like, has she been on house arrest this whole time? And Michael Starling was like, no, she was not. He was like, okay, she can be free on bond, but we're going to put her on an ankle monitor. We're going to put her on house arrest. This Mr. Dolo's family was livid, out of their mind. And Michael Starling was like, okay, yes, thank you, Your Honor. We understand. We're going to go to the appellate court, and we'll take this all the way up to the whatever. This is what you need to know. After that conviction, when they interviewed Mr. Michael Starling, he was shocked too. He was like, in all my years of practicing law, I have never had a client who was just like let out pending appeal. That kind of doesn't happen. Which tells me that the judge and maybe Mr. Michael Starling and maybe others suspect they might be able to get this whole thing wiped away and get a new trial. And now they know what the state is bringing, so they know how to prepare for it. Michael Starling might be able to get this whole oopsie murder wiped off her whole record without her ever having to do a day. But also, if she's going to be on ankle monitor for the pendency of this case, while it goes through the appellate process, which could take a couple of years, does that home confinement time count against her that 5 years she's got to be home confined? So at the end of this, she might only do like 1 or 2 years, good time with credit for good behavior and time. So she might only do a teensy little piece of time, and then she could go on with the rest of her life without a conviction at all. Y'all hire Michael Starling. No, first of all, make sure if you're out here committing crimes, or if you're accidentally committing crimes, or if you're accidentally unaliving people, you better have a good set of facts on your side. Also, shout out to having women judges on the bench who see the full story and are not just like punish. There's some empathy here, which I really appreciate. I think that Miss Q should do a little piece of time just on the strength of the bad judgment, because hopefully them aunties and whoever else can help you see the light of day and see your way to living right. Also, she now has custody back of her children. She now has access to her children. Everybody in the family has to go to therapy for at least a year, which if this girl got any kind of common sense, the whole house going to be in therapy. The dog going to be in therapy. The cat going to be in therapy. Everybody going to be in therapy. They're going to be like, here we are at therapy for the gerbil. Mr. Therapist, Mrs. Therapist, please help our gerbil who has seen these horrible crimes. Listen. This woman has got a chance to get her life back, and I honestly, sincerely hope she does it. Also, during the pendency of the appellate process and her parole, so basically for the next 20 years, she can't associate with felons or have them in her house. I hope that all of this gives her better taste in men, because if she can't have a felon over to the house, then she can't be bringing the trifling behind boyfriends around. So good for her. Maybe she'll find herself a decent man and get her whole life back. I think that's the way the judicial system is supposed to work. But everything about this case was a mess, but fascinating. Also, hey, Michael Sterling, how you doing? Now that you're single, listen, I know he's trying to get his wife back. He's trying to get Miss Eva back in his good graces, because apparently Michael Sterling was arrested for DUI. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back for Miss Eva. Now, the divorce between Michael and Eva was super, super fast. That she filed and it's finalized just like that. The whole time he was like, I'm not losing my family. I'm not losing my family. And he has 2 biological children with Eva, and then 1 child that he adopted or changed the baby's name or whatever, that is Eva's child from a previous relationship. You think he's talking about his 2 kids? Nope. He only talks about his 3 children. He's like, I have 3 children. Mr. Michael Sterling gonna get his family back. You mark my words. I know so many women who have divorced men and then gone back to them when the men got their act right together, because they out here doing whatever. And the wife is like, you keep acting like that, I'ma go. And the men don't believe fat meat is greasy. You know, they do not believe fat meat is greasy. And these sisters are like, yeah, I've had enough of you. And they leave, and the dude's like, what? They change around their whole situation. Off the top of my head, I can think of 7 women, 7 who have gotten back together with ex-husbands with good results. In one case, the woman divorced her husband and he started acting right again. And she was like, okay, you can date me, but I am unwilling to be married to you. He's like, no problem. He slid right back into the husband role. And she is a very, very successful businesswoman. So she out here in these streets making her 7, 8 figures. And he's just her boyfriend. He's her child's father. He is her ex-husband, the love of her life, also only her boyfriend, because she does not have time for his mess. So she can go do whatever she want to do. And she still gets all the benefits of marriage with none of the obligation and none of the financial hang-ups and woes and whatever. That sister's winning. Let me tell you right now, she is winning, but that's just my opinion. Look, I need to go put my behind in the shower, get ready for work. I have to be out here in these true crime streets, finding out about more true crime. And I am dying to see the full Buster Murdaugh interview. Buster, boo-boo, you need therapy. But that's another story for another day. I hope you had a good lunch. Go on and wipe your mouth. Get that idea tea. Get a little something. Go. Yeah, you got it. Okay, go back to work. And I'll see you later. Bye.